these type of games impress me because Clix, Yamzo, and Higgs still break into the top 10. They have yet to place outside of the top 10, but this was, or no, sorry, that wasn't true. They placed outside, or they got 10th this game. But this was one of those games where it was like, I chalked it up early because after they got done with that engagement with Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual, I was like, oh, they got like 20 builds, and then they went ahead and they fought like 3v3, and then, you know, Clix had to get rebooted. They were late rotated into the zone. I'm like, this is the game, right? This is the game where Peterbot actually establishes a lead over them. But no, somehow they still put up a decent game, get 10th place, 6 eliminations, and then with Peterbot kind of going down in the same area, it still stays competitive on the leaderboard. Gotta tip my hat to Clix, Higgs, and Yamzo, because even in games where they don't seemingly have everything go perfect for them, right? The game plan doesn't work out, they're still able to adapt and put up decent points.
Dude, just when we pulled up those standings, I mean, again, we're just trying, when we pull up the standings, just look at that number on the left, right? And just see which way it's going up and down, okay? The fact that Muzz, Yapko, and Rise are now starting to push out Agers, Acorn, and Pollo. Pollo has already qualified. If he jumps up into that top 3, now we're looking to move further down the standings. Peterbot's already qualified. There are so many head-to-heads happening across this lobby right now. I am just in awe of the community, of the players, how they are performing. Guys, this is peak. This is peak.
I'm in awe with Muzz going for that kind of mountainous zone height early on and then using that to kind of control high ground all the way until zone 12. We were talking about at the start of the show just how difficult that is, but when you're Muzz, Rise, and Yapko, it's not too difficult for you. However, what is difficult is that once that zone does slowly start pulling down the mountain, high ground only means so much. But again, I love that it like really came down to a 1v1 of Muzz versus Reet and then a 1v1 of Curly versus Rise. There's just so much storytelling there, but still they are just barely within that contention of making into the global championships. These teams cannot be resting on their laurels yet. 3 more games to go, Zeke. There's still so much that can happen. This is amazing. This is incredible. We hope that you guys are all enjoying what you're watching, and just a shout out, there's a bunch of watch parties happening right now. Aussie Antics, Courage JD, Stable Ronaldo, Faxity, I mean, there's Legends Landing is going crazy. We are all as one community coming together right now to watch this all happen with 3 games left to go.
How close this actually is, and it almost makes me wonder how nervous, how anxious are our competitors, because it has me at the edge of my seat going into these last 3 games.
Yeah, I've been keeping my eyes on the chat, keeping eyes on the community. Clix has said it out of his own mouth. He has had the shakes in certain scenarios, at least coming into game 9. He was really feeling the pressure. And you got to think about it. This is the first time he's had this much pressure. He hasn't had a 2nd place lead, almost 1st place like this. So here we have it. Let's jump in for another game. Game 10 of the Major 2 finals is here. One thing's for certain, we do not know how these rounds are gonna play out, who's gonna let alone take the victory royale come the end game. These games have been absolutely nail biters, and you could tell the tension is in the air between Peterbot versus Clix, because Peterbot's team has been the most dynamic team we've ever seen in the history of Fortnite, changing their strategy round after round and just trying to be the counter, the kryptonite to Clix's trio.
Just taking matters into their own hands, literally making sure if we are going to lose this FNCS, it's going to come at a try. But what is this? Another contested fight. And I was going to say something, though, for a moment, Monster. This has happened in Clix's history one time before. Veno coming all the way over from EU, teaming with Clix. They were at the top of the leaderboard a few majors ago after day number 1, and this exact thing happened. They started to get contested game after game, their loot stolen away game after game, and already it looked like it might have been just a momentary thing. Jutrez said, you know what, we might have just went on to Clix's house, let's just leave before security catches us.
Now you do have to keep in mind, Fallen, Nitro, and Jutrez are the current 33rd place team So them just spawning here and taking a little bit of loot is still extremely significant to Clix, Higgs, and Yamzo's pacing in their entire game, right? Look at how different they have to play now. They're slower. They're looking around. They don't want to overcommit. These things are going to affect their performance. So if it isn't one thing, it's another now that they have to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, just one of those things I feel like you have to figure out a way to prepare the best that you can. And you can see they knew they were contested right out of the gate, so they're not going straight for that storm surge strategy. So even though we know that full team has already disengaged and left, now with the scanner going down, they're going to get the information, and now they're behind their curve a little bit when it comes to accumulating that damage. It's something that you've been talking about all weekend long. It's literally the little things.
Take an inch, they turn it into a mile. Peterbot, Ritual, and Cold seem to have their strategy going business as usual. Teams at Foxy Floodgates peeking on over.
Do you see that though? Look at Crime City. You see just a little purple arrow? That might just be that solo.
Is that Jutras? Oh yeah. Oh, they're just showing up. That is the team. That's Nitro from Jutras Fallen's trio there. They say, hey, you know what? We want to get talked about on broadcast. We're going to land on both first place and second place. We'll keep it interesting for the comm, you know? Give them both a little something to think about.
It's risky. Especially since Cold is by himself. He's just waiting by one of those chests, waiting for Cold to think it's fully uncontested, because he snuck his way in here, I believe, through the porta potty. So this is going to be one of those interesting situations.
He might actually get away with an elimination right now. I'm not even going to lie. Nah, not on Cold, right? No way.
You know, this is literally a movie today, because, you know, in those situations in the movie, the horror flicks, where it's just like, no, don't go in there. The monster's in there. Right now, Cold sees him. Now it's a chance, as you see every single green arrow on the outside. Both Ritual and Peterbot have turned around, and this is where it's going to get dangerous for Noob Nitro as a solo, because now the entire wolf pack is going to converge.
Wait, but you got to think about it. The same story applies here for Peterbot, Ritual, and Cold. If they're getting, again, pushed off of their usual strategy, this is time lost on farming damage. Now, Nitro did throw the bag. He had a chance to take down Cold, but he got caught in the street, and now he's off to the races, and he just gets folded over. 190 damage opener here by Cold. Cold's probably going to flex him on with a pickaxe. I wouldn't doubt it. Nope, he doesn't want to put the risk out.
Now, it almost makes you feel like in the back of their mind, they found one. They obviously don't know that his duo is just nowhere in sight. Well, speak of them, Fallen and Jutras, this is them. Almost on the other side of the world, north of Crime City, in another 1v3 situation. And that's Cap that just gets the elimination onto Fallen. Jutras now by himself, and it just almost looks like that strat to split up to surprise first and second place might not work out for them, but he's not going down without a fight up until then, where they get wiped off that. And now, one less game for them to play.
Everybody gets their shine in the sun here today on the broadcast. Lore's amplifying Shiny, though, going toe-to-toe now against what looked to be Japco, Rise. Kind of sneaking on in here from the side, trying to get a little bit of a piece of the action, hearing the shots going down here.
Like this slow play this time around. Aviv, Skittles, and Chimp jumping on over towards Outlaw's Oasis. And they are actually able to get this armored vehicle this time around, so it's not just the overabundance of loot. It's exactly this situation with the zone pulling further and further towards the east. That's going to allow them to safely, or relatively safely, rotate with that armored vehicle straight into zone much faster than some of these other teams that might have to use some of their resources to make that same rotation.
By the way, was I tripping out last game? Did I see an armored vehicle come flying off the hill? Like, I couldn't tell. Still thinking about how Higgs went down. Like, I'm pretty sure Booga had an armored vehicle somehow. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Higgsy Yamzo Clicks, though, moved out of the Lone Wolf lair. They're not looking to sit around. They're trying to keep their strategy moving along. Notice every game, I would say the last 9 games, basically, they kind of stood there stay right at the draw spot. Last game, they were forced almost into the zone because, you know, Peterbot trio rotating in. So now they're looking to play for a little bit more key positioning, take a fight inside the storm. This is all new for them right now.
Yeah, just interesting, from yesterday, staying at Lone Wolf, game 1, being able to access that black market. I thought it was going to be a trend that changes in that favor, but now it looks like they're just kind of hunting. And this could be partially because of Storm Surge, but on the other end, one of the key ways I feel like in order to take down a trio like Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual is keeping up with eliminations. And remember, to close the day out yesterday, they didn't get any eliminations. They went down early, almost a 0-point game. So now you're looking at them. How do you close the gap against a team that is so consistent and so aggressive? Well, this is one of those ways that I'm looking at.
Well, Clix has got the information downloaded. He sees what this team's up to, tracking them almost perfectly as they start to build their fortress here. They're looking to set up the ambush right now, likely waiting for just one little edit reset to come through so they can go ahead and take advantage of the weak wall. And they find it. The weak wall is a little bit of wood, and they box him up. But his player manages to barely skate away, but not for long. Here comes the pressure. This is where Click shines best, obviously. Box fight type scenarios. Swinging his way around, catches JXY from the side angle. Again, not letting the builds kind of replenish here. And he's got a great little angle going on here. But look, there's another team pushing in extremely fast as the fight's breaking out right now. They have to wrap this up quickly.
It might be Josh, Magma, and Causers trying to float their way in, and they're already there, right on top of all this action. Up above, trying to sneak away some shots. Even with elimination in down, they're not able to clean it up just yet. It's gotten a little bit more risky on the other side. It's a 2v1 situation. Click showing no fear, just putting a good amount of damage onto both of those players, knowing that he does have the backup. Higgs, Yamzo have now entered the fray, but both of those eliminations get stolen away, and it's not just the loot, it's the points.
They lost the points as well, and then the body must have been picked up. That is so unfortunate. And then look at who's here. Taki, Ishu, and Ver, and that's a good trio. We saw how they managed to really fend off Clicks just in the last game. All of a sudden coming through, little ambush opener onto Yamzo, but Yamzo too fast on the draw there, ends up kind of escaping. So Higgs, Yamzo, Clicks have another chance now to find a fresh set of eliminations, but they're not really happy with the way this is all unfolding. So that's 12 points that just slipped through their fingertips.
And then you add in the amount of builds they expended, the resources that they've used, and they weren't really able to get any of that back. And now they're almost stuck in this position. One team on one side, another one on the other. But they're still doing a good job of making sure that nobody can advance their position. Nobody can start to build confidence. But there's another one off the side of the mountain, Curve, Shadow, and Tyler, that they might have to worry about soon, especially if they disengage into that direction.
Look, they ended up finding Polis there. Magma's trio. Now Higgs, Yamzo, Clicks kind of get the situation. They say, okay, seems like they just got the full finish. Trying to kind of break out this side angle here. Not too sure whose builds these are. Higgs not trusting it at all. He's trying to see if there's still that one left. Where's that down player is what he's thinking about right here.
Ooh, another cheeky play. Throwing the thermites on the walls. Let it do the damage for you. That way, if anybody is sneaking or hiding around, it might take some time, but their position will be revealed. But that team already disengaged towards the north side. Back over towards Brutal.
Ooh.
Boxcars as we tune into Peterbot going down. Ritual once again looking like he's going to save the day. And they're just outside of Crime City. Cold is converging on that location as well. So even with Peterbot going down, it's not going to be too many worries for them because he's going to get right back on up.
Got to give a lot of respect to Ritual, really keeping to his word, promising to improve his mechanics, improve his fighting capabilities. In this finals, he has really showed up and pulled out. Take a look, though. Peterbot gets into a little bit of a skirmish here and just loses an exchange against Aiden through the wall there. And that's how he ended up getting folded over. A little setback on damage, but not over just yet.
Oof, it's a momentary setback for someone like Peterbot. Most damage in the game by far. Let's tune into Cooper and Curly. No read. He's already down. Zone pulling on over towards the eastern side overall. And this is with those splashes. They're just going to try to disengage on out. They know Flooded Frog's uncontested, especially with the zone moving in the opposite direction. As long as they have that reboot card, it's going to be no worries for them to go ahead and try to get Reap back up. But there's a full trio behind him, chasing him down. Creon, Noisy, Tony. They don't want to let those 2 eliminations go for free because assuming they already got the one on Reap, they know they have the advantage here.
I was gonna say, I feel like we were due for a little bit of a scrappy game from some of our top performers, but I wouldn't have thought all 3 of our top 3 teams were gonna be having a bit of a hard time here come game 10. This is a halfway mark of day 2. Traditionally, the big teams start to break away here with a, overwhelmingly consistent. But Cooper, Curly, Reed find themselves on the back foot right now. Pressure coming in from Creon as they look to advance forward. Big tags coming in, but the pressure starting to mount here. Cooper jumps to low ground. More tags from another trio. This is Hound's trio now looking inwards. Oh, things are not looking good right now for Cooper and Curly, who just came off the last game victory royale, but now all the way forced into a worse position, and they get finished. Collapsed on by the hands of Creon, Tony, and Noisy, while Cirque and Hellhound just watch in the distance.
That is just so terrible for Reek, Cooper, and Curly. And you look down that leaderboard, Visual with Braids and Diminish. They're already in the conversation with the Global Championship bubble spot. But then you got Muzz, Yapko, Rise. That made it easier for them to catch up. Rapid, Booga, and Threats, them as well, over the 400-point mark. And so now everybody else on that leaderboard within contention for that spot has just been granted a little bit of a miracle, but 26 teams still left alive. Don't start getting points until top 17, and then they start to cascade in with every team that does go down. So there's still a long road ahead of some of those teams looking to get inside of the bubble. Clicks, Higgs, and Yamzo rotating late out of their Lone Wolf lair. This time around, just like in game number 1, they're going to backtrack on over to that black market. They're assuming and hoping all of these teams have already rotated away out of this spot so they can have ease of access to the black market.
Yeah, their timing perfect too. The team is just moving out of it as they are showing up. Braids, Visuals, and Diminish. Kind of mixing it up here, taking a little bit more of a scenic route. Not in any kind of worry or, overly dangerous position. Whereas last game they found themselves, as one of the few kind of playing deep in the storm there, pushed by different trios and whatnot. This is another one of those moments too, Jacob, where teams find themselves in a race, right? For like a top prestigious podium finish for the first time in their careers. And sometimes, again, that pressure, you just don't know how you're going to react when you're in those moments. And this is their time now.
I kind of like the way you said that because you could practice in scrims. You can kind of practice, depending on how you look at the divisional cups, open style tournaments, but there's almost no practice you can actually get for what it feels like to be in an FNCS major finals lobby with some of the best players in the region. Some strategies, some plays that you thought was easy that can take you from one round to the next may not necessarily work out here or be much harder to pull off. As it does look like the zone is pulling further and further over towards Seaport being a focal point of the actual zone, so that makes it a little bit easier for Threats, Booga, and Rapid, not only to get their surge, but position well as they have multiple bases around this side of the map.
Yeah, just think about it. Imagine queuing into the game is just thinking about what's on the line, right? $100,000 global championship spot. It's not easy. You're gonna be feeling the nerves undoubtedly, regardless of how good you are. Ooh, good tags here for Threats as he kind of sets things up. Seems to be pretty content with the situation he's got going on. He's gonna double back here now.
Yeah, with the zone closing up, pulling over, they're probably just trying to converge in one spot, one building. Make it a little bit less risky for any team to get a knock and push over for the elimination. But still fighting deep in the zone, north side of the map. Taki, Isho, Vert versus Noah, Kaz's, and Chaos Gaming. And Taki has a huge chunk of shields missing, and that's where they're going to converge, drop the water sprite, the gold splash, get the HP and shield back on up. And now they have that swing speed has increased, and they're just trying to break their way down, get as much control as possible. Noah and Chaos looking like they're playing a little bit defensive here for my liking. Crouching down, trying to hide the visual audios and try to sneak a play or a big shot on Ataki, Isho, and Vert, who absolutely need this fight. You see they're 268 below the damage threshold.
I respect Taki just taking a little minute to farm up some mats there. It's desperate here. The fight's starting to go the distance, but they lose Ishu. They just don't have time. They don't have time to let this zone close right now. They really need to end this fight as soon as possible, but punishment starting to come in here. Still, they've yet to find the tag that they're looking for. The slow play, the defensive play from Kaz's. Noah plays in Chaos Gaming starting to rack up here now.
Funny enough about this situation, if you look at like all the HP on that full trio down below, it still might not be enough to deal with the storm surge that they're going through now, especially in the next zone where the threshold will increase. So they're definitely on the clock, something that you mentioned. And that time is ticking very, very fast. 259, even though they got the piece up above. Kaz is the one that's getting the shots. He's able to get the knock on the Vert. They actually trade, but now Taki's put in a tough situation. He's trying to drop down, get the builds, whatever heals that he can, but it was not his siphon. So Taki, Isho, and Vert will go down. And Noah as well. Even with elimination onto Kaz's, this just got difficult for Chaos, Noah, and Kaz's.
Yeah, you saw the points being lost there due to the surge, but jumping in with Peterbot's team here. They just caught an elimination off the Cyrus. They seem to just keep finding these cheeky free points here on the edge of the storm just by being in the right position at the right time. This time it's Cyrus who falls, just caught out, having a struggle of a rotate through the zone, and it's perfect too. Look, this is the way to the new zone as it just pulled north, so couldn't have been a better time for Peterbot's trio. But just as they're only 594 above, they're recognizing, hey, we're not out of the woods just yet. A little more work to do here.
And they're not in any realistic rush because more times than not, we see them rotating into the zone. You already see one player, probably Ritual, already making his way on over on the train tracks, just trying to get as much information, the awareness of where these players are at, what type of sacrifices you're going to have to make if it is going to mean going into the zone, which wouldn't be surprise me if they did, or if they just brute force their way onto the edge, joining a couple of those other teams on that side overall. Muzz, Rise, Yapko, 512 damage above the threshold. They're in a much more stacked side of the zone, where Peterbot would eventually have to rotate into if they did continue to go straight. And you're seeing the lay of the land. A lot of these teams and players on top of mountains, the edges, so that way they can have as much elevation as possible without investing too many materials.
Ooh. Clicks, Higgs, and Yamzo finds a team up on the island here. The zone is going to end up pulling that way. They have a couple of options to go for right now. Teams rotating early, starting to get punished in here. It's Noisy and crew. Some good opportunity to farm some damage here and now. And you know what? They're going to be able to sit here for a while if they wanted to and just farm every team for damage, really set back these trios. Meanwhile, Visuals, Braids, and Aminish get dropped down on by Muzz and Japko from the high ground there, and they get the finish and they slide on out, content with the refarm. Leftover material there. They pick up what they can, but Visuals and Braids are going to have to play this one out as a duo now. So that third place spot, that comfort, starting to slip away here. Even though last game was a 5th place second, Recooper and Curly's win catapulted them up and over them by 40 points. And now it's going to be all the more difficult here as Ruz, Japco, and Rise, our 5th place team, are starting to, again, creep up on them. So this is direct competition here.
Yeah, just under about 60 or so points is the differential, and they're the ones that take them down and left them as a duo. It's Aegis Poyo in a very, very similar spot. No IGL this time around, but at least Acorn can still lend a helping hand. Even while watching on the sidelines, 445 damage above the threshold. You're seeing it around the lobby, some faring much better than others. It's Cold, Ritual, Peterbot. And they're a team, no matter above or below, they don't really let them affect their nerves at all or really dictate the game plan unless they really have no choice. And they get a clean rotation towards the side, just under the island as well.
They're based up right next to Clix's trio. Little do they know, as they kind of swung around the side here. And notice, this was not a good rotate for them. They were at all max cap material. They're about halfway through their reserves right now because they went early. And it's likely because Clix's trio was focusing them first, given that they were one of the few teams to rotate. And look, they all pull the zone now, but hold up. Pause that story really quickly as Boyo, Acorn, Majors are finding themselves in absolute shambles territory here. Boyo, the last man standing here for the trio, trying to keep his essential 5th place position alive right now, but how much can he do as he's got a maximum draw pull halfway through the mats here, Jacob? This is not good.
Yeah, this is a nightmare. It's going to be tough. Good thing he does have the materials. He does have the gold splashes and a kneecapper, so he can close the distance in the blink of an eye. But a max pull, never easy for anybody, especially when you have a team just like this, looking so far into the distance from the top of the Shogun's Island. And they're down below Surge, 52. There's a lot of opportunity here with